transportation, to healthcare, to jobs, and to quality housing. This council must weigh many different factors in deciding how to proceed on this ordinance. I would ask that their first and last consideration be the low-income residents of the city. Giving them more access to quality, affordable housing is key to improving their lives, and stopping discrimination against those who utilize Section 8 vouchers can and will help achieve that goal. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Peter Coyle, and afterwards it's Joe Abraham.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair. My name is Peter Coyle, 8300 Norman Center Drive, Bloomington, Minnesota. I'm here this morning on behalf of the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association. I want to acknowledge the very legitimate public interest the city has in trying to assure the availability of housing to all folks who choose to live in Minneapolis, regardless of their income status. But I would say respectfully, and I mean respectfully, that the approach that the city is taking this morning by this ordinance will do the contrary. It will damage your relationship with the landlords who you most need to solve this problem. And I believe if this ordinance is tested, it will be found to be unconstitutional and in violation of state law, contrary to the apparent advice that the Housing Department staff has received. I want to just briefly step through a couple of arguments and then defer to the rest of your testimony this morning. The city acknowledges that it has multiple issues that need to be addressed based on the audit that's been completed by the outside consultant. That audit has identified multiple improvements that could be made to the housing program today without any ordinance being enacted. And yet, for reasons that are unclear to me, the city is choosing instead to pursue a path that I would say respectfully is a blunt stick. Rather than using a carrot, as the housing report would suggest, to try to generate support among the landlord community to be more active participants in the Section 8 program. Respectfully, this ordinance will do exactly the opposite. Contrary to staff's recommendation to you, this ordinance is a mandate. It will compel a property owner to participate in the program or risk being charged with a civil rights violation. That's a mandate. It will compel the landlords to enter into third-party contracts with the federal government. That's a mandate. It will compel property owners to undergo inspections under the HUD program that are different than those of the city of Minneapolis under your rental program. That's a mandate. It will restrict those landlords as to the sale or assignment of their properties. That's a mandate. And lastly, will force them to abide by contract terms that the federal government imposes on them through the HUD agreement that's part of the Section 8 program. That's a mandate.
Thank you, Mr. Coyle.
Madam Chair and members of the council, thank you much for your time this evening. I appreciate it, this morning rather, and I appreciate your attention.
Thank you. Mr. Abraham, and afterwards it's J. Patrick Kegley.
Good morning, and thanks for hearing my testimony today. My name is Joe Abraham. I'm at 201 Western Avenue North in St. Paul. I'm an operator, and I proudly provide clean, well-maintained apartments in the city of Minneapolis. I'm also a very active and I'm a willing participant in the Housing Choice Voucher Program that includes the program administered through MPHA. But I strongly oppose this, and I urge you to consider if your best solution is to force unwilling, unprepared operators to administer this program. A year ago, I was asked, among others, to provide my initial reaction on the proposed ordinance. All stakeholders agreed on the following two items. One, MPHA needed significant program reform. And two, there was we needed more and widespread acceptance of the HVC holders and that program. We all agreed there was an issue. The problem is those things are directly correlated, and I think we've squandered an opportunity to solve that in the last year or two. In that meeting, we also spoke about a unique opportunity in the city of Minneapolis. Minneapolis is well known for having a very high percent of locally owned and operated apartments. We don't have a lot of exterior outside operators in our business. I think we've, again, squandered an opportunity to use that partnership with owners. Countless times over the last year, and since this was proposed, many of us have volunteered to be part of solving this problem in some form of working group. I'm not aware of a single case where one of my peers was involved directly in finding a solution, working with MPHA or any other group that would hear us to try to solve this problem. So before instituting more policy with damaging consequences that you've heard from many of my peers, please give Mr. Russ the time to implement his changes. You've got my support for sure, and I know you've got many of my peers who will be happy to be part of the solution. Thanks again.
Thank you. And our next speaker is J. Patrick Kegley, and the next person after that is Vanessa Monahan Rial.
Good morning, City Council members and members of the committees. My name is J. Patrick Kegley. I live at 1401 Portland Avenue, A109 in Minneapolis, near downtown. After learning that I would no longer be able to afford where I lived in South, went through housing search back in 2015 and found that many places would not take vouchers, except that, and I have a voucher through MHR, Mental Health Resources, which I've benefited from for 14 years. I'm very grateful for that. However, I went homeless after a 4-month search. I went homeless briefly for a couple months. I was able to go to my parents for that brief time. But then I was able to find affordable housing downtown at Aon. But it's not quite the area I was planning on moving to, but I'm satisfied. I'm very satisfied with Aon and the Elms. They're very, very good management. But I thank you for your time and considering, and I strongly support the idea of banning discrimination, because there's a voluntary program. There's only a very few that want to take Section 8 vouchers or housing choice vouchers. Thank you.
And our next speaker after this one is Quincy Washington.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Monahan Ryle. I live at 3414 Morgan Avenue North in Minneapolis. And I'm here to support the ordinance as well. I'm an employee at Resource, a large nonprofit that provides many services related to chemical and mental health, employment, and career education. And we've seen that in order to have wellness in any of these areas, housing is critical. I work in a mental health program, and it's very difficult for people to keep up with medications or doctor's appointments or even practicing the tools they learn in therapy or recovery when they are just in survival mode trying to figure out where they're going to sleep day to day, which just leads to difficulty for them and the community when they end up having to be hospitalized or maybe not safe in the community. And I've worked with people who have vouchers, trying to help them find housing, and it's just been very disheartening and very difficult to make call after call and find landlords that won't accept Section 8. Trying to be alongside there with people is really difficult, because they find their life is really on hold. A lot of people have dreams. They say, I want to be a productive citizen, I want to go to school, I want a job, but it's just too difficult to do any of that stuff until housing is in place. And I'm only seeing it getting worse. On a regular basis now, we're seeing landlords that did take vouchers, decide not to, or sold the building, and the new owner doesn't want to take vouchers. So it's a problem that's just getting worse. And I would argue that it is an urgent matter and does need to happen now, because it is affecting the lives of people that, like I said, their lives are on hold and they really want to just be happy and healthy like everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Quincy Washington. And afterwards, it's the handwriting is a little bit difficult, but Ellen Sally. I'm sorry. Yes. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Quincy Washington, and I live at 3457 Central Avenue Northeast, apartment 104. And the reason why that I'm here today is because I am living proof of basically having to deal with slumlords for the past 4 years. And I cannot become a productive citizen of the state of Minneapolis, Minnesota, if every year I have to move because landlords don't want to accept programs such as Section 8 and GRH housing, let alone spend the time or let alone take the time to take the money that you get from your tenants and residents and put it back into your property. So we have to deal with bed bugs. I've had to deal with roaches. I've had to deal with spiders. I've had to deal with everything. And all they do is sell the building right from up under the tenants and leave us with the notion of having to move. I've had to move for the past 4 years straight because of slumlords not willing to take care of the property. But you want our money, though. You want the government's money. You want Section 8 housing money. You want GRH housing money. but you don't take the money and invest it back into the property. How are we supposed to be productive citizens of the state of Minnesota, regardless of whether we had a criminal background history or not? How can we become productive again if landlords are not willing to take care of the property? You don't deserve a rental license then. Property managers lying about being the landlord, taking over $1,000 from me. I was in debt by $3,000, coming to my door, drunk. Someone that's supposed to represent you all as a whole, as a unit. These are the type of landlords and so-called property managers we've been having to deal with from years on end. They need to be investigated thoroughly too. Something needs to be done on their end as well. Someone needs to come in and make sure that they're doing
Thank you, Ms. Washington.
work. Thank you and have a blessed day.
Our next speaker is Ellen
I
Sally.
think it's Linda Mascelli if I'm number 29.
We are actually on number 21.
Oh, then it's not me. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before this committee. I'm Ellen Sally. I'm the president of the Family Housing Fund. The Family Housing Fund is a Minneapolis-based nonprofit organization building on a 35-year legacy of helping communities meet their affordable housing needs. We are committed to working with housing authorities, local government, and private partners to create meaningful access to housing for families region-wide. The Family Housing Fund shares the goal of improving access to housing for families with housing choice vouchers. Prohibiting discrimination by source of income is a fundamental value that we hold, and the proposed ordinance in front of you will advance that value, and we support the ordinance. As you know, the proposed ordinance alone is not enough to expand and protect access to privately owned housing for families that hold vouchers. As Mr. Russ spoke earlier, the Family Housing Fund commissioned a report by Quaddell, and the purpose of that report was to assess MPHA's voucher program to identify possible enhancements to their policies that could expand resident choice. In the spirit of continuous improvement, the study showed that there are administrative changes that should be considered to make the voucher program work better for families and improve the partnership with rental housing owners. MPHA has shown decisive leadership in providing information and access to complete the study and in accepting the findings. In fact, just yesterday, the MPHA staff reported to their board on actions that they intend to take immediately. And this is just 1 month after receiving the report. The Family Housing Fund's goal is to support MPHA's work MPHA in that work, and we encourage others, including rental housing owners, to do the same, as this will lead to meaningful access for families in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Andrea Rubenstein, who graciously just waited. Next speaker after that is Leasewittenberg.
Good morning, Chair Yang and members of the committee. My name is Andrea Rubenstein, and I live at 5108 Bryant Avenue South in Minneapolis, and I'm here in support of the ordinance. I've come here wearing two hats. First, as a resident of Minneapolis, because I care about the quality of life in our city, as I know you all do, and I consider the quality of life to ensure equal access to affordable housing, to building stable neighborhoods, and freedom from discrimination. I'm also here as a board member of Jewish Community Action. We've been around about 21 years. We have about 800 more members, and we were conceived from the tradition of Jewish involvement in the civil rights movement and have organized to bring together Jewish people from diverse traditions and perspectives to promote understanding of and take action on domestic social justice issues. We do so in concert with and support of other community groups. I attended as a member of JCA a community forum a couple of weeks ago and heard some common themes that were presented in opposition to the ordinance. One seemed to boil down to it's my business. I should be free to conduct it as I wish, even if that, and that discrimination, I should be free to do what I want. Clearly, discrimination is already illegal, And so this doesn't change anything for businesses. And it's not acceptable to society. And I think this is very much a discrimination ordinance rather than, and it also is a response to a real crisis in affordable housing and access to housing. And so that seems to be more important than anything else with regard to this ordinance. Another thing.
Thank you, Ms. Rubenstein.
Okay, thank you. And again, thank you for your support and hope that this will be passed.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Leasewittenberg, and after that, Courtney Gunderson.
Alrighty. Hi, thanks for listening to me, everybody. I am a resident of Minneapolis. I have lived here for 32 years. I live at 1816 Colfax Avenue South in a 3-unit building. I sold my single-family home in that same neighborhood when it was too expensive, so I moved into something that I could afford. I have been in this house for 12 years. I hope to retire someday. I'm 50 years old. I have invested my retirement fund in the city of Minneapolis. I have now own and manage 15 apartment units around various parts of town. 2 properties are in Lisa Bender's ward. I'm sorry she can't hear me. One is in Lisa Goodman's ward, and another one is in Jacob Frey's ward. I also have a family member who is getting government-assisted housing, and I have a good friend who is getting this. So I think that this is a very complicated situation that you people are dealing with. And I do want you to know that I have, in the time that I've run this rental business, I have had 3 Section 8 or housing choice voucher tenants. One of them, it's a very difficult organization to work with as it's currently run. I couldn't get a phone call back to find out if I could requalify this tenant for 2 weeks. One of them turned out perfectly well, and another one left their apartment in disarray. That's just kind of how it went. I think currently the organization is very difficult to work with. I think all landlords want to run good rental businesses. I would hope so. I picked this business. It's my second job because it's something my mother would be proud of. I rent good quality apartments in neighborhoods I would live in, and I put them in a condition that I would like to rent them in. And I think that you're picking your target market group. It's too bad is the people who are giving already the affordable housing units in the city, Graystar and all of the new apartments in the North Loop, and they are going to be exempt from this. So I think you're kind of picking on your partners in the affordable housing versus your allies. And if you worked to make it easier to work with the system, most people would love to be part of this system. It's a very difficult system for small people like me. Thank you for listening. Sorry to go over.
Courtney Gunderson, and afterwards, Christine White.
Hello, I am Courtney Gunderson at 995 Grand Avenue in St. Paul, and I'm here with Resource Inc. at 1825 Chicago Avenue, which is a nonprofit that supports thousands of participants annually. On behalf of my organization, we support this ordinance. It is time that voucher holders become a protected class. It is our duty to support an increase in access and equity for housing voucher holders who are disproportionately people of color and people living with disabilities. As an advocate for the Housing First model, I know that housing allows for stability in other areas of people's lives. It is my job to also support landlords, which is why I want to reinforce that this ordinance does not change the overall screening process based on other rental criteria. If a person does not meet the criteria, a landlord is not required to rent to them. If an individual violates the lease, they may be subject to a lease termination. Anyway, I support taking this chance and choice for voucher holders.
Our next speaker is Christine White. Christine White. All right, we will move to the next speaker, Eric Haig. From Homeline, Eric Haig. All right. Haig, okay. All right. All right, you both can just line up and go ahead. Ms. White, go ahead.
Yes. Hello, sorry about that. I guess I'm here because I'm going through some of the same situations, having the landlord discriminating, not wanting to rent to people, on low income, Section 8, and, being slum landlords and not wanting to fix things and stuff like that. So I'm going through the same thing as trying to find a place, but all of the places are in the rough neighborhoods. So I live at 2905 Colfax Avenue North. Sorry, I'm out of breath, but I came from St. Paul, so the Section 8 housing goes a little different than the experience that I have been experiencing out here. You might come up with the money, you're already low income, you come up with your money for deposit and rent. So the landlords are accepting the money, assuring you that they're gonna fix the property up. They're showing you the places where the tenants are still living there, and then after the tenants move out, they don't want to repair things. But again, like the other lady was saying, they want the government money, they want the insurance of the money. They're giving you a hard time, and they know that they're going to get paid, but they're taking the money, lying to you, assuring you that they're going to fix the properties up, and they're not even fixing it up. So as a low income person, someone helping me, I'm gracious and grateful to have the program to not worry about struggling, for housing for me and the kids, and getting back into work ethic and want to work to get off Section 8. Is to help people. You don't want to try to live forever, but these land, you want to live there like it's part of yours. You want to take care of the place, but they're moving you in where families have been living there 3-4 years and they've never even repaired anything. So you're so afraid of being homeless, you're trusting you take that place upon them thinking that they're going to fix it, and they're not even going to fix it. And then the neighborhood is so bad, the shootings and things like that, you report them. They don't even care about even coming to check on their tenants or anything. They're railroading people, making them be afraid to speak up. They're feeling like they're going to be,
Thank you, ma'am.
retaliated. So sorry it took forever, but it's the same thing. They're taking the money, but they don't want to fix things. And it's kind of scary, So
Thank you.
Thank you.
After this, next speaker is Sharon Magnuson.
Thank you, Chair Yang and Chair Goodman and committee members. My name is Eric Koge. I'm Director of Public Policy and Organizing at Homeline. Homeline is located at 3455 Bloomington in South Minneapolis, and I'm also a Minneapolis resident. Homeline is a statewide nonprofit that provides legal advice for renters. I am going to be delivering some written commentary that's from Homeline and a group of 25 other organizations. And I'll deliver that now, but in terms of my testimony, our organization serves thousands of renters throughout the metro area. And we hear from hundreds of residents that have Section 8 in Minneapolis. We see disproportionate numbers of voucher holders in Minneapolis asking for advice about housing instability, substandard conditions, and other rental issues that are inextricably tied to the discrimination and lack of housing options that they face. Danielle from the Department of Civil Rights mentioned a survey that we worked on, and I'm happy to submit that as commentary as well. It did demonstrate that there were a lack of options in housing listings that were available to Section 8 voucher holders throughout the city. And we've surveyed residents. We've learned from residents that perceptions about Section 8 caused some renters to face difficulty finding a home, and many were denied because of their voucher. I want to thank the Council for taking on this important civil rights and fair housing issue. We know firsthand that this is one key part of a regional response to larger historical patterns of housing segregation. Clearly, there is a need for more affordable housing. The number of vouchers available for those waiting for assistance is simply not enough. Meanwhile, as thousands of renters wait for decent, safe, affordable housing options, as we've seen so clearly with several high-profile legal cases in Minneapolis, low-income renters and people of color are taken advantage of by unscrupulous landlords. Until there is a widespread, deliberate, comprehensive plan to preserve and develop more affordable housing, renters must be supported by regulation within this business market. This includes stronger protections against eviction or lease non-renewals for families who face involuntary displacement, more tenant-centric, accountable, and consistent code enforcement, and prohibitions against discriminatory and retaliatory management practices. We look forward to working with the Council as you take important next steps to further improve renter rights in Minneapolis.
Thank you.
And again, thank you for your leadership on these issues today with your yes vote. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sharon Magnuson. And after that is Retcon.
Sharon Magnuson. I'm going to decline to give my address says I have no FP. I don't want that public. My family has a property at 3428 Aldridge Avenue South in Minneapolis. I will, when that passes to me and my brother will be third generation there. I've had the privilege over time of being a homeowner and also a renter. I also have the unique experience that during that time as a single parent, I've lived on the north side. I have been a renter that has gone to try to rent on disability. So I know how difficult it is to rent when you are on disability or you're getting other subsidies from the county or the state. I am now a realtor working to be fully employed and through a PASS program with Social Security. With that, I have taken in my heart as a realtor to serve people and helping them get housing that normally wouldn't look at that as being home ownership, whether getting those out of foreclosure and helping people to get into rentals. I have one client right now that makes $8,000 a month. Their credit is awful. And we have been turned away from 42 properties in the last 60 days. They have no problems putting down a year's worth of insurance. But because people do not want to discriminate based on income and they need to use a standard, they don't meet the standard because their credit rating is in the hole. And so what I strive to do with people and preparing them for homeownership and or renting is teaching them about credit, how to be responsible credit holders. MPHA has a lot of flaws that I hear people all the time say, nope, I don't want to work with them because not getting the rents on time, not getting the damage deposits on time. I placed one family recently over north who was getting help through child protection. And that damage deposit did not come for 2.5 months. I had the owner going, where is the damage deposit? I need a
Thank you, ma'am. I need you to wrap up.
Thank you very much for hearing me.
Our next speaker is Rick Kahn, and after that, number 29 is Linda Mascelli.
I'm Rick Kahn. I live at 602 North 1st Street in Minneapolis. I'm a member of Jewish Community Action. I also work as a consultant to the Greater Minnesota Housing Fund. I want to add some new information that's relevant to this discussion today. The Greater Minnesota Housing Fund is about to launch a $25 million NOAA equity fund to support the acquisition and preservation of affordable rental housing properties throughout the region. It has attracted $25 million in impact capital, measuring impact based on the requirement that every property that gets funding through this will be required, absolutely required, to accept residents with Section 8 vouchers as the way we determine impact, as the way we actually achieve opportunity. I would guess that each and every one of the members of the City Council decided to run for this office and has chosen to continue to serve here for moments like this, where it's a hard vote, but there is an ability and an opportunity for you as the members of the council to vote for something like this ordinance, which actually makes a big difference, to vote for something like this ordinance that will change and improve many lives, to vote for this ordinance that will increase opportunity the most for the people in the city who now have the least. I ask for your vote of approval for this ordinance, and I thank you for it.
Thank you. Number 29. Please, Linda.
Can I sell my place to him and lose the capital gain? I'll be glad to.
And number 30 is Tom Fletcher.
My name is Linda Mascelli. I live at 27903 Zuni Street, Northwest. I Santy. I have a duplex in Northeast Minneapolis that I bought when I was 24 years old. I love that house. It's got beautiful hardwood floors. And I love the yard and the lilac bushes. I don't want to have to go through the hoops of Section 8. I don't care if somebody is poor and I get my money and I don't have to collect twice a voucher from the person. I don't care about that. I just don't want to be forced into going through a bunch of hoops or lose my rental license when I've got tons of money, love, sweat, and tears put into that building. We're occupying the downstairs unit right now because we're putting in new floors in the kitchen. The place hasn't been painted in 10 years because I keep getting tenants all the time. And I just said we need to do some improvements in here. We put in new boilers, we put in new roofs, new sidewalks. I take care of that place. I love that old house. And I don't want to be forced to have to go through baloney HUD crud in order to maintain my renter's license. I have never discriminated against anybody on anything. I've rented to gays, straights. There's a happy couple upstairs right now. I've got all sorts of people, black, white, Indian, American Indian. I've given people rental credit, not collected rent for 3 or 4 months because the guy was laid off. I've rented to children. It's not about discrimination. It's about my being able to maintain my property the way I want to. I'm not a big landlord. I bought that place when I was 24 years old because the guy where I was living raised the rent too much. So how about instead of people worrying about renting, how about you guys buy houses like mine and then rent them out as part of a group? Kids that I grew up in rentals. I think every kid deserves a yard. They deserve being able to ride around on their bicycles. They deserve to have a swing set. So quit trying to jam this stuff down our throats and let it, or at least exempt, duplexes that are owned by one person. But don't make me go through this. I'd rather not rent the thing out than have to go through the expense of this. I'm 65. My husband's 73. We take care of our property.
Thank you, Ms. Mascelli.
And it's not, and also protection, civil rights protection. How about for fat people and ugly people?